Family Foundation Action supporters. I'm your host, Bruce Schlesman, the Executive Director for Family Foundation Action.
And I'm Jessie Blakely. I'm the State Director for Family Foundation Action.
We are very excited to bring you Battleground live election coverage for the first time ever. Came at a great time, too, because I hear VPAP's having a little issues right now.
Yeah, luckily the Department of Elections is up and running, so we will have coverage for you all night long.
So we have a great guest list. We have some of the best experts in Virginia coming and joining us. We have Will Ritter from Pool House, who's Youngkin's ad man. We have David Owen, one of the key candidates in these races, running against Susanna Gibson, which is a race I'm sure you've heard a lot about. We have Jeff Ryer from the Senate caucus, Aaron Evans, one of the top-notch consultants in the business who has a lot of these key races, and Gary Marks, who is senior advisor to the Attorney General's PAC.
And we've also got Nick Freitas, Delegate Nick Freitas, joining us later this evening.
How could I forget him?
So we're going to jump on with Victoria Cobb, the president of Family Foundation and Family Foundation Action, in a few minutes. But before we do, Bruce, I know we've talked about it a little bit before we got on air, and you and I have been running around all day. What are some of the general trends that you've seen as you've been out looking at precincts?
Well, first, what I've seen is that turnout is high. It's higher for an off-year election. It should be higher than 2019. We'll see. I'm seeing some areas that are higher than 2022 turnout in areas that, frankly, benefit us. I'm seeing, hearing a lot of good news out of SD 17, for example, which is one of these key Senate races we're gonna get into. There's a lot of good news. There's also some, areas that look a little troubling, but all around, I'm seeing high turnout. I'm seeing the absentee ballot and early vote initiative that the governor and ourselves and a lot of other groups pushed seemingly has worked. That's given us, a slight bump in a lot of these numbers, and it doesn't appear to have cannibalized the election day vote, which was a fear kind of walking into today.
Yeah, that was everybody's big question. Were we going to see heavy early voting and absentee and then really light turnout on election day? But that doesn't seem to be the case. I know from some of the precincts that we were looking at, we've seen really high turnout in a lot of the red precincts that are kind of key to some of these really competitive races. And we've also seen really high turnout in swing precincts. So it's definitely going to be a nail biter tonight.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, it's going to be close. We knew that going in. Today just confirms it. It will be a close race. And, SD 24, which was Danny Diggs versus Monty Mason, we're also seeing a spike turnout out of the red areas like York County, but we're also seeing an enhanced turnout out of some of the blue areas, like especially Williamsburg.
Yeah, and with same-day registration, there's some students on campus that it sounds like have taken advantage of that at William and Mary, so we'll have to see how that breaks as the night goes on. But before we do that, I do want to introduce our first expert who's coming on. So Victoria Cobb is our esteemed president of 26 years, I think. And so she's been with us for quite a long time leading the charge, and we're excited to have her thoughts and kind of introduce you all to what Family Foundation has been doing this year, what Action's been doing this year, and what we hope to see from tonight. So welcome on, Victoria.
Well, thanks for having me. It's exciting to be here. This is fun to do our first live stream event and to be able, as far as elections go, and to be able to kind of break this down as it goes. And I'm thrilled about the guests we have here. But we got to talk about what's at stake. Just this election, why does it all matter? Well, Virginians have seen why it matters, right? So if we look at the past couple of years, we kind of know what it means. So we can go all the way back to, when we had liberal control from top to bottom. So we had Governor Northam all the way down House and Senate, and they were able to run rampant over good, sound public policy that we had. And so they moved everything left, and we experienced that. So now we've sort of been back in divided government, as we say, where we've had kind of conservatives at the top. We've had a conservative House. But as the Family Foundation knows all too well, we haven't been able to pass policy through the Senate. So every bill that we've tried to pass gets hung up in the Senate. And they don't really get great hearings even. They kind of go to a subcommittee. I can think of a great example would be like Sage's Law. This was such an important bill that just talks about, not deceiving parents about children who are struggling with gender confusion in the classroom, in the school setting. But more than that, it even went so far as to say, look, parents can't be considered abusers if they simply aren't totally aligned and endorsing their child's gender change. So there were some really important concepts in there, a really powerful story behind it, and it goes to a Senate subcommittee, and you have a couple of Senate Democrats that are in control, and, a great bill just just dies a really quick death. And so you don't even get a full debate in the Senate. So, I mean, this is the reality of what we've been in.
No, you need two chambers to get anything done, and we're seeing that. We saw that for 2 years, and that's why we're here. That's why we at Action have knocked over 40,000 doors, tens of thousands of calls, 500,000 texts, into these target races to gin up conservative and evangelical voters to make a difference here on Election Day. And we're seeing a lot of these red areas, especially the red areas we worked the heaviest in, and the purple areas we worked the heaviest in, really showing up on Election Day.
And I think Jesse brought up the real point here, which is we had to get to low propensity voters. We had to get turnout from people who sometimes only vote for the president. They sometimes only vote for the governor. But in these lower races where it's just sort of House and Senate or, important school board races, they're not necessarily always thinking I got to turn out. And in recent years, we've seen that the Democrats, the liberals have done a better job of this, and Republicans and conservatives kind of needed to get on board and kind of convince our people that every single year in Virginia is an important election year. So the doors that we were knocking were people that in many ways agreed on these issues, but we couldn't assume that they were going to go to the polls. So now we're going to find out tonight, did all those folks actually get up and either vote early, which was a big push. Governor Youngkin did a phenomenal job going out everywhere, pushing early voting, pushing that the vote is secure, doing what he could on election integrity. And the rubber's going to meet the road of we got good early voting numbers. We as you guys mentioned, we saw good things.
Absolutely. That was one of the most encouraging things going into today, was seeing those EV numbers and how encouraging they were, especially in the redder precincts. We saw a lot of that. We saw a lot of voters that we had modeled as conservative leaning turning out a lot more than previous years. Statewide, I think it was around 8% more.
That's great.
Now, which is great, but it was a lot sharper in these target areas that matter, because you're going to hear it a lot tonight, but statewide turnout does not matter. You could have a D+4 year, you could have an R+4 year, but it doesn't matter except in these purple districts that are going to determine control of both chambers.
Yeah, and that does change the strategy, right? So when you had a statewide race, when it was Governor Youngkin running on the ballot, and you knew you had these conservatives, you could gin up votes in sort of the more conservative areas wherever they were.
Yeah,
but when we're talking about a House and a Senate, and there are certain critical areas where there are going to be certain races, and the control of the chamber is going to be based on that, it really did kind of come down to a couple of Senate seats, and it comes down to maybe a few more House seats, and it's really a matter of who actually showed up, not just sort of how those districts lean, but who was more motivated. So I think we have to talk about kind of the motivation factor, right?
So on that note, Victoria, a lot of the Democrat messaging this year has been abortion, abortion, abortion. And for a lot of our viewers, I'm sure, and for a lot of our supporters across the state, that's really been concerning and really hard to hear, that there, no exceptions all the time, every case abortion. And that's the only thing really that they've been running on in these key seats. So what do you think that it means to us as a conservative movement, sending a message that doesn't work here if we win?
Yeah, it would be incredibly powerful if it is the case that conservatives can win control of the House and the Senate, despite the millions and millions that have been thrown in against our candidates that truthfully ironically, are not being honest, because they're really going all at this idea that Republicans would ban abortion from conception. I hate to say it, I may want that, other people may want that, we may believe that life is precious, but that is not what was going to happen. And so there was a lot of misconceptions put out there in front of the minds of voters. And Republicans tried to counter that, and they tried to say, look, no, really, our plan is a 15-week bill. We're going to start at the point where an unborn child feels pain. And really, that was Governor Youngkin saying, look, that's where there can be consensus in Virginia. We're a very deeply divided state on abortion. I think that's a spot everybody can come together. It is, in many cases, actually a more liberal policy than Europe. I tell people our abortion law is in Virginia right now is more akin to North Korea and China than it is to our neighboring states in the South. So maybe 15 weeks is at least a place that we could make some progress, but not take past where the voters are. You got to move hearts and minds at the same time that you move election ballots.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing we're seeing here. They tripled down on abortion everywhere, and the facts didn't matter. They didn't run against 15 weeks. They ran against we're throwing women in prison, and that's what they ran on. Every ad just sounded about the same. It didn't matter where. Siobhan Donovan is moderate on abortion. She's not where we want her to be, but they still.
They made it sound like she was the most extreme person you could ever meet on an abortion issue.
They did that to everybody
across
the
board. Ads calling her a MAGA extremist, talking about how she wanted to ban all abortion regardless of exceptions. It didn't matter what where any candidate stood on this issue, that's what they told voters.
And Republicans tried to counter a little bit also with the, hey, let's not forget where Democrats are. Democrats have been all about abortion up until the moment of birth, on demand, for any reason, paid for by the tax dollar. It's just kind of a question of which message got through, right? Like, what did the voters hear?
Absolutely.
Well, Victoria, thank you so much for jumping on with us at the beginning. I know we're going to see you a little bit later.
Thanks for having me.
And Bruce and I are going to do a little bit of breakdown of the districts for some of y'all, some of the most critical seats. So to start out with, Bruce and I want to go over some of the really most key Senate seats, and these two that we want to touch on first. Delegate Emily Brewer in SD17. Sorry, looking at my notes at the same time. And Delegate Tara Durant, who's running for Senate. So both of these seats really are, they were originally ranked as lean Republican seats as the cycle got closer and as we saw tons and tons of out-of-state money being poured in by the Democrats, they got a little tighter.
No, they did. And Emily Brewer is one of the races, consistently on the ground, especially the last month. We really hammered from the airwaves on a lot of text messaging and phones. It's harder to knock in that district, so we couldn't do really much door knocking there. But, and we're seeing it move the needle a bit. I mean, right now I'm seeing Brewer at 70% reporting. She's up by a few points.
Yeah, so we can actually take a look at my screen real quick, and this has some of the numbers that have come in from the Virginia Department of Elections. So just so you folks know, not all of the precincts have reported in yet, but we do have some reporting in. It looks like Brewer is at 53.4% from the votes reported so far. Clint Jenkins at 46.29%. So he's down by about 2,500 votes at the moment. Now, we will see more results coming in, but it looks like she's had strong performance out of Dinwiddie County, which is one of those smaller areas, but it's very red, so it's important for her to max out turnout there, max out votes there where she can get it. Just as I'm scrolling through here, Isle of Wight, that's another really strong conservative area in the district. She's got that right now with 11 precincts out of 18 reporting in.
And they really hammered Isle of Wight, on the ground.
Almost 65% of the vote so far. So.
Yeah, and you can see it. Some of these areas, you're going to see past 2022 turnout in Brewer's race especially. I'm seeing a lot of good, encouraging things from these numbers so far. Pay attention to Suffolk City. Now, Suffolk City is not an area where Brewer is expected to win. She's expected to lose it. But there's a lot of red areas where on the ground turnout was very high.
Yeah,
that we were hearing.
And for right now, I've got that up on my screen just for the county of Suffolk, kind of the roll-up. Again, not everything reported in, but Brewer is actually winning. She's at about 7,500 votes to Clint Jenkins' 6,700 about. So doing really well, really strong performance out of Suffolk to get started. So it's looking like we're headed in the right direction here.
Brewer's performance also might have some trickle down with, Mike Dillender's race is, there.
Yeah.
I think part of Kim Taylor's race, isn't
towards the top of the district. And then we've also
got
Baxter Enos in Chesapeake.
Yes.
So that's going to be another key one.
That's another key one. And I'm seeing him up right now.
Let me take a look at that real quick. And while I do that, we should talk a little bit about Tara Durant. That's an important district as well. That's coming out of Fredericksburg.
Yeah, no. So that was a lean. That was
that's Senate District 27.
Yeah, 27. And Durant is someone we're seeing that this district, the math is a little better. Youngkin won it by, almost double digits, I think. Durant, this is a stronger district I'm seeing. And, on the ground reports kind of showed that going in. She was getting good turnout of a lot of the precincts she needed. As these results coming in, I'm seeing it being, I'm cautiously optimistic about that one. I'm seeing some good numbers here.
Yeah, right now she's down a little bit, so she's at about 44.7%. Joel Griffin, who's the Democrat, is at 49.9%. But if we look at what's returned so far, we've got a lot of that coming from Fredericksburg City. And Fredericksburg City is really the dark blue area, the much more liberal area of that district. So, not unexpected at this point in time. We've still got, it looks like, kind of the exurbs of Fredericksburg, and then we've got all of Spotsylvania County. So none of Spotsylvania has come in yet. That's really one of the key conservative stronghold areas.
0 of 13 precincts in Spotsylvania. I mean, that's the beating heart of Tara strength in that district. That and Southern Stafford.
Yep.
Southern Stafford, we should see a strong performance out of. Turnout looked good going into this.
Yep, it's about half reported in. Right now she's at 51.4% in Stafford County. So
Okay.
Right now she's on pace in Stafford County where she needs to be. It'll be interesting to see when Spotsylvania comes in if she continues to have that kind of a commanding lead there.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you have those Baxter numbers?
No, let me pull those up real quick. And I think we are waiting on David Owen as well, who's in one of these really key House seats, who's going to be joining us pretty shortly.
Yeah, we'll bring you the HD 57 numbers with David soon. While we're waiting on that, I'm seeing Lee Peters' numbers start to come in. Not much reported in. He's down pretty big right now, but this is one of those key 50-50 races. From what I'm seeing reporting in, we'll have to wait. We'll have to circle back on Lee Peters and Cole.
Yeah. So we're gonna touch on some of the House races soon. Again, since those are a little bit smaller, it's harder to tell at the moment. You can kind of get some of the bigger trends from the state Senate races right now, but everyone has seemed tentatively optimistic from what we've heard on the more conservative side, some of the races that we've been involved with. But on the other side, Democrats are pretty excited as well. So I think it's really going to come down to where a lot of these swing voters break and some of these really tight swing precincts here.
Yeah, absolutely. So going to his district while we wait to have him join us, we have about half the precincts, a little less, 8 of 17 precincts in Henrico come in. He is down slightly in Henrico by just less than 100 votes, it looks like here. Let's see what's returned here.
Yep, I've got that up on my screen. So right now, David Owen is at about 49.3%, Susanna Gibson at 50.3%. And remember, folks, this is one of the districts that had a major scandal break. So polling earlier in the cycle was showing Susanna Gibson down by about 4 points as far as we could tell, which this district is razor thin. So that's a big margin. And it's going to be interesting to see if, that scandal broke in October. It broke after a little bit. Was it before or slightly after early voting?
It was right after. So it was
Yeah.
right after early voting. It was that end of September period we saw a break.
So we're going to have to see if that was
Yeah.
enough time, enough to put David over the edge. That's going to be one of those districts that we're probably waiting on till the end. And importantly for folks to know, we're going to be streaming tonight till 9:30, covering a lot of the bulk of the results coming in. But some of these districts are so close that we might actually wind up in recounts. So that's important for people to keep in mind.
There's also several of these districts we're not going to know tonight. Recount or not, there's just going to be a few districts that run a little later.
Yeah, and for those who remember 2021, we had several seats that we didn't know until the Friday afterwards. So for folks who are not aware, after the Democrats had full control in 2020, they took over. They changed a lot of our voting laws during COVID, and so now in Virginia, up until when the polls close on election night, you can send in your absentee ballot if it's postmarked by, I think, 5 p.m. on election night. It still counts, and it counts after the fact. So for some of these razor-thin margins, they're going to be waiting to see if any of those ballots come in late that really change the outcome.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking at the David Owen precinct results here, and I'm seeing Short Pump basically tied. David is down by just a few votes there, and that's a very 50-50 precinct, so that's not as surprising. Hoping he was going to win that one, but not so. I'm seeing a lot of more Democrat precincts that are in here. He won West End, he won Ridgefield. These were expected. He barely lost Lauderdale. That was expected.
And Ridgefield is a swing precinct, right?
Yes, it is. And so that is big because we lost it by 50 votes in the midterms, and he won it by 67. So, another precinct, Stony Run, barely won. That was another swing seat we lost in 22. I'm seeing Innsbrook, Colonial Trails, and these are blue sinkhole districts or precincts. I'm seeing those in. I'm seeing Hungry Creek in which was a split precinct. I'm seeing Coal Pit in, which is David won, which was good.
Yep, David won that. So it sounds like we've got David Owen with us on the line. He should be on pretty soon. We're just waiting to hear when he's all set to go. So we're excited to check in with him, hopefully from the victory party.
Yeah, no, and hopefully he'll have something to celebrate. Now, even though the scandal broke, a lot of people kind of assumed Owen was just gonna, this was gonna be a slam dunk. And looking at these results, I don't see a reason not to be confident here. But even when he's probably going to, this district is so 50-50, scandal or not, it's probably going to be at best like a 51-49, 52-48 kind of win. It's going to be close. It could be a lot closer than that. I'm seeing a lot of the red areas, like Knuckles Farm is not in yet, River's Edge. Those are key Henrico precincts that we're going to wait on. Goochland is another stronghold of his. So
Absolutely.
We'll have to see
He's got 3 precincts in Goochland County, very conservative area of the district. So that definitely will make a big difference on the overall results there.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you want to, while we're looking at this, do you want to pull up SD27 again and see?
Yeah,
if we got
absolutely.
updates
Let
there?
me pull that up real quick. And I think we are still waiting on David to connect, but we're looking forward to hearing what he's got to say. And for folks that aren't aware of kind of where that district is, that's really in the suburbs of Richmond City. So it's got mostly Henrico County, and then like we mentioned, it's got 3 precincts of Goochland County. So that's one of those areas where it's been very competitive in the past. I think in 2022 we narrowly lost it. It's mostly in Rob Whitman's district. It was a narrow loss in that part of the district in 2021. Youngkin won it, so it's really on the line, and that's one where we've actually had a lot of folks out there working with our team. We've had canvassers out there this year.
Absolutely.
We've had volunteers out there. So it's really been a big effort, and I know there's been lots of other folks pulling for that district around the state. So we're really excited to see those results. There's lots of districts that Bruce and I have been in this year, but that one's pretty close to home here. So
yeah, absolutely. And so we'll see. That's David Owen's district is one of the ones we hit the hardest. It looks like we got some early returns on the anti-casino front.
Oh, very nice. So for those of you who hadn't heard this yet, Richmond has a casino referendum on the ballot 2 years ago. Family Foundation was involved in helping to defeat that the first go around. And so they brought it back about $11 million later, right?
Yeah, absolutely. They spent a lot of money. This was a true David and Goliath, all together between the anti-casino effort, probably not even $500,000 spent. On our end, it was around $160,000 or so we spent. We ran ads, we did digital ads, we did text, we did a lot of things to try to defeat this. And what we're seeing is Richmond City voted against it last time, 51-49. We were expecting a close race, one way or the other. The casino referendum was going to be close. Early returns are looking very positive for the no. So
yes,
we'll see what happens.
So early
there.
returns, we just got sent a screenshot, 73% no. So we'll see if that holds out. But that'd be pretty commanding. If
that
was the
would.
projection.
Based on those, I'm probably figuring that just a lot of anti-precincts came in.
Probably.
I mean, that seems a bit of too much of a blowout to be the final.
All right. We are ready to go to David Owen. We're just, he's about to come on the line. So I hope everyone will welcome him. We're excited to have him with us right now.
David, you there?
I am here. How are y'all tonight?
We're doing great. How are you doing? How's the mood in the war room?
The mood's pretty good. We're all a little tired. 4 o'clock came early this morning, and it's been a long race. I knocked until sunset yesterday and got up early this morning. So we're very optimistic. The Goochland numbers haven't come in yet, and we're kind of in a dead heat right now for Henrico numbers that have come in, and the early voting hadn't come in yet. So
yeah, I'm seeing a lot of good precincts too that have not come in Henrico, and you're already in a dead heat. That's looking good from where I'm sitting.
That's how we feel. But until they're all voted, all the votes are counted, you're never really sure. And of course, the early voting we probably won't know about until another couple hours.
Yep.
So, but we feel like we performed well in early voting. Worst case, dead heat, but we think we're a little bit ahead in early voting.
Well, David, you've had quite the election this year, quite the race. Can you tell us a little bit about some of the voters that you talked to at the polls today, kind of what the response has been as you guys have been out in the district?
Well, the best part about being at the polls today is people walking up and said, "Yes, you knocked on my door." As Bruce knows, I knocked on a lot of doors, including his.
Yeah, no, my wife got to greet you at her door at least once.
That's right. So that's nice to see that the door knocking pays off, because people came up and said, "You knocked on my door, you have my vote." But it was we felt like at all the precincts we were doing very well. And there are a lot of people that are just coming up and voting R&D, and they don't care about anything else that's going on.
Yeah, that's absolutely true.
And I've worked the polls a lot over the years, and it's unfortunate the number of people that come up to the polls and they don't know who they're voting for. They just want a sample ballot from one side or the other, and they go vote straight party.
So y'all
no matter
had
what's
the governor
occurred.
out with you today as well, right?
The governor showed up at Knuckles Farm about 4:30. The national media was there, and it was quite a little spectacle. The governor and Senator Dunham and I were greeting voters, and the press kind of had to get out of the way so we could let the voters get by. And then the governor did a little bit of a press conference with them, and things calmed down, and we got back to work and talking to voters and asking them for their votes and thanking them for their votes.
Yeah, I like how you put that, got back to work. This district, we're feeling good about, seeing the results of SD 16 in your neighboring district. Any insight there, as we now are 37 and 57 precincts, I think, reporting in?
As far as how it overlaps with the Senate district?
Yeah, how it overlaps with your district.
Well, we probably have the stronger part of that district, and Senator Dunham probably wishes we were performing a little bit better now. But as you mentioned, our strong precincts have not come in yet.
Correct.
So
yeah.
we're still feeling pretty good. I've not talked to Senator Dunham since about 5 o'clock today, but she was feeling very good as well. So I wish I could tell you I knew exactly where the numbers were, but until early voting comes out, none of us really know anything.
Yeah, absolutely. You have your race to worry about.
That's correct. We're kind of focused in on our numbers and what our precincts are, and we've been making some phone calls up to the Goochland precincts to see when we think we might hear some results. There was pretty good turnout. There are three precincts in the 57th district in Goochland, and one of them had really good turnout, stronger than normal, and the other two were pretty well normal. So we're hopeful that those numbers will be the ones that help boost us over, and then when our strong Henrico precincts come in, hopefully we'll be in the right position to win.
Well, very good. Well, we don't want to jinx it, so we'll just wish you the best of luck, and thank you for joining us tonight.
Yeah, thanks, David.
We appreciate it. Thanks. Sorry it took me a little while to get online.
All
No,
good.
you're
Happy
good.
to have you.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks so much for your help.
Thanks. Well, it was great to hear that. I think we've got some tentative optimism out of the David Owen camp, but
Yeah, absolutely.
nobody wants to jinx their luck.
No,
this
absolutely.
early in the night.
I mean, the fact that Goochland hasn't come in and they're reporting strong turnout, to me gives me a lot of optimism about David Owen's district. He's in a stronger position than a lot of other people right now. The Dunavant race is not looking the greatest right now. It's about 48.47% to 51.31 with 38 of 57 precincts in. We, like David Owen said, there are a lot of strong precincts that have yet to go. A lot of Democrat strongholds have already reported, but we are seeing some concern in that district right now.
Well, for those who are joining us or have joined us in the last few minutes, we've got some great guests coming on in the next few minutes. We've got Will Ritter from Pool House, Youngkin's AdKey, who's coming on. We've got Jeff Ryer from the Senate Republican Caucus. So hopefully we'll have Will joining us shortly next, and it should be a great day.
Yeah, absolutely. We're excited to hear from some of these guys and what they're seeing. They have a lot of insight to provide, which is why we asked them to be on. But looking at the numbers while we wait.
Do you have a rundown for us right now? I know for those of you who are avid watchers of vpap.org, we've had some site issues this evening, but we thank VPAP for their support throughout this whole election.
Yeah,
Bruce and I are on this website all the time.
Yeah, I know. It's my favorite website, and that might be sad to say, but...
All right. Well, it sounds like we are ready for Will. So Will Ritter from Pool House will be joining us. All right, Will, great to have you with us. Thanks for coming on.
You there, Will?
There I am. Got me?
All
There we
right,
go.
we got you.
Awesome. Oh, I don't get to see you guys?
Yeah.
Unfortunately not, but
No.
we
Come
do get to
on.
hear you.
You're just going to have to pretend we're there.
Okay. Well, you guys are close enough. You're just down the street.
Yeah. Yeah. So, take us into kind of the ad strategy. Your group was involved with a lot of the biggest ad campaigns in the state and a lot of these key races. Kind of take us into the overview of the ad strategy and the messaging wars this cycle and Republican versus
Sure.
Democrat.
Sure, yeah. So, taking it back to the beginning, I think it was kind of a balancing act with both sides. At the very beginning, we were seeing mail pieces and we were seeing ads with, Democrats shaking hands with Governor Youngkin and praising Governor Youngkin in order to, be bipartisan because the fact is he's the most popular politician in the state, 57% approval rating. You need those coattails in an off year election.
Interesting.
So,
Not to interrupt you, but
No, go ahead.
it was very interesting seeing the Democrats kind of run from the Youngkin comparisons. Hiding from Biden, running from Youngkin. They very much it seemed to me, tried to not make that comparison like most people would assume.
Yeah, no, they really didn't know what to do, and then Youngkin did the same thing, brought the same successful kind of strategy, at least ad strategy that worked in his election, and played the hits, and he did what worked, which is to kind of talk to common sense issues, job growth, tax relief, public safety, parents matter, and be energetic about it, be positive about it, be upbeat about it. And, he's the coach, and he exudes that kind of positive coach energy. And we would just, get him out there working, from the very beginning to secure the vote through the absentee ballot program that he really put his shoulder into. And he's just been campaigning the whole time. I think he was doing 3-4 rallies a day. So it's not hard to see that we just really have to profile that optimism and positivity and get it with our candidates that were, in our target, 10 target districts.
That's one of the things we love to see. And really across the board, it seems like the candidates on Team Republican were very much on Team Youngkin, everybody kind of pulling with the same messages, very clear, very put together vision. So I think that type of team spirit is something Virginia hasn't seen a lot of in the past several cycles for Republicans. So it's kind of a new day.
Yeah, and absolutely. And another thing they haven't seen a lot of is money.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that was very much needed at just the right time in this election, because this is, to get your message out, particularly in an off year when people aren't paying attention, it's very difficult. Things might not be as expensive on the airwaves or on the digital waves, but it still takes a lot to get that name ID up and to push back. The numbers coming out of the spending are just a jaw dropping. It doubled. It's like $60 million combined.
Yeah, very much an old school ad war.
Yeah, that's there's nothing off about that, about doubling.
No, it was congressional level money.
Right,
estimate,
that's
maybe
been.
more.
Well,
So-
speaking of money, the other thing that we've seen quite a bit of money dropped into this year is the casino. And I know you've done some work with us on the casino in Richmond. So how are you feeling about that? What are you seeing there?
Well, I just got to say big ups to you guys. I hadn't really worked with your organization previously to this opportunity. We're just kind of, found each other. And I've got to say that you guys are really impressed by both of you guys, the sophistication of the political operation that you guys run there. is really amazing.
I'll give you your $20 later.
There you go. Make it 40. No, but really for the size of the team that you have, I think you guys make an outsized impact. And I was, it was a pleasure to work across the table with you guys on this one because, I think that, you had some really great insights, and it's kind of a younger, newer generation of strategists. So it was fun to do that on the casino. Yeah. I think that, this thing seems to be, this is what's kind of unfair about the timing of this live stream is these things are like breaking on Twitter. I'm like,
I
peeking
know,
at-
I know.
Yeah, I
We
know.
will let
It's-
you go in a minute so you can
Yeah.
refresh the.
It's
the
okay,
feed.
but it does look like the casino is going down in flames.
It
And-
does, like way
Good to
stronger
see.
than I thought. Like, wow, this is pretty incredible.
Well, and for all that Will has said about messaging, we got to give a lot of credit back in that direction as well for the ads that they helped us put on. I think there was about $11 million spent on the pro casino side, and we were a very small fraction of that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, we won't even say it, but I mean, the fact is we didn't need to beat the message in at 1,000 grips or 1,200 grips even. We just had to remind people, and you didn't even have to dive that deep into every single undulation of the issue. Just, it was voted on 2 years ago.
exactly.
It's largely the same ownership, but people don't appreciate it. So really that was, a very simple kind of boiled down message to most of our advertising, right? Was that we don't have to relitigate this. And I think people respect that. And you're seeing really big numbers in, in turnout in the biggest anti-casino kind of areas. So I don't think we're going to be seeing a casino in Richmond.
Well, that's good to hear. Thank you so much for joining us, Will. We appreciate having you on. We'll let you get back to refreshing and watching all these races that we know that
I know
you are.
VPAP is down too. It's killing me, man.
I know. You got to go to the
Killing me.
Department of Elections, old school.
All right. We'll see you guys.
Thanks, Will.
Bye.
So do we have an update from SD31 is a key race we haven't talked about yet, and that's Loudon.
Yeah, I can look at that real quick. I do think we have Jeff Ryer with the Senate caucus. He should be on with us shortly, but in the meantime, while we wait, let us jump to Senate District 31 real quick. So right now, VPAP is showing me that we've got Russet Perry in the lead right now with 50.95%. And we've got Juan Pablo with 48.8. It looks like we do have 60 out of 63 precincts reporting in. So it looks like Russet Perry may pull this one out, but still have a little ways to go in Loudoun County. And, well, actually, looks like we have...
Where are
yep.
those 3 precincts?
I'm looking. Hold real quick. And we also have absentee and early voting that haven't been counted yet. So that is gonna be a big difference.
Yeah. It looks like, I hate to say it, but it looks like Juan Pablo Segura might not be long for this world right now.
It's not looking great at the moment, but, it's not over till it's over. This was one of the districts that we had quite a few volunteers come and help us out with. I do want to give a big shout out to Marshall and city elders who brought quite a few people from the western part of the state up to Loudoun County to help out in this race. So hopefully we can get it across the finish line for them. We'll see.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll see where those 3 precincts and what the ABEV numbers look like.
Yeah,
there.
for sure. Well, and I also heard, little birdie told me, or sent me a message, that we have one of our Speak Up teams in Newport News that is watching our live stream. So for those of you who don't know, we have some courageous folks across the Commonwealth who work with Family Foundation's grassroots team. They've been doing a lot of work advocating at the school board level, just all over the Commonwealth. And so we've got one of those teams watching us live in Newport News. So we just want to say hi to those guys real quick. Thanks for jumping on. Thank you for everything y'all do.
On the results front, it looks like we have some results coming in from Senate and House. It looks like Diggs is up barely by 1. Durant is up by 5. We talked about Segura and Dunavant. Brewer's up by 7 at this point.
Yep.
Like we said, she's looking the strongest of the critical swing. Wolf is down by 6. That's more than I would have thought, but, SD30 was a tough district. McAuliffe won that district. We're seeing Lovejoy up in a lean R district, not by as much as we'd hoped.
Yep, by about 4%.
Higgins is up by 11. Stirrup is down by double digits. Owen is, we talked about Owen, but he's still
down by
.8.
0.8. That should be recoverable for those watching,
Yeah,
just based on
yeah.
what's still left out there.
Yeah, I still feel pretty confident about him. Shia is down by -4. Peters is down. Kim Taylor's down. Dillender is
Yeah, so this
barely-
one's the sleeper.
Yeah.
This wasn't on a lot of folks'
Yeah.
maps, and this is one that we were able to help out with a little bit last minute. But Mike Dillender right now is only down by 0.06%. So that is
Yeah.
one of those Hampton Road seats that's under the 16th Senate, the 17th Senate District, Emily Brewer's seat. So that's possibly going in the right direction. And then we also have Karen Greenhall right now,
Yeah,
up by
that's-
9%.
That is huge. That was a district that I would have pegged would be in the margin of recount. It would be so close. So, that's big. We're seeing a lot of uneven results from a lot of these districts
Yep.
across the board. Turnout.
And that should even out as we get more precinct reporting in.
Yeah, a bit. I'm kind of curious what HD82, what is coming and what is not.
Yeah, that is an interesting one. And for folks who don't know, Kim Taylor just barely won that district in 2021. It was very difficult. And as we know, Youngkin was top of ticket. So we had a kind of a little bit of our own little mini red wave in Virginia. So there was definitely some momentum with that. Hopefully Kim can keep that up this year, but it looks like she's having a tough time. But we've also got some other folks in some of these key areas. Karen's was another race that she won it in 2021 by less than 100 votes. Looks like she's doing well right now. Again, Bruce and I are going to dig into the precincts and see if we're missing some of the blue areas or what we're doing there.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing right now. I am not ignoring you guys. I promise.
Bruce is on the analysis. So it's a little bit mixed right now across the board, but we're hoping that as these things come in and really as absentee and early votes get counted as well, we could see some swings because there are some of these critical districts where not only were the Republican candidates up to the Democrat candidates, they were up in terms of just enthusiasm, the percentage return. So if we're looking at 2022 and 2021, we can tell how many percent of people who have requested those absentee ballots, who have early voted, how many of those folks bring them back and cast them. And so across the board in a lot of these districts, we were seeing Republicans returning ballots in higher percentages and Democrats returning them in lower percentages to previous years. And then we also saw a decent amount of swing voters. So, it's going to be interesting because some of those Republicans just outright won the absentee vote and the early vote. And others, they didn't win, but they definitely had higher returns. So
yeah, the ABEV looked strong going into this. Like we talked about, we had a lot of, we're expected to overperform there. Obviously, not expected to win, especially on the absentee ballot front, but definitely on the early vote front, the in-person early voting, across the board. But we are seeing, a lot of these results are, being frank, not looking good, though. We'll see what happens right now. I'm seeing some encouragement out of the areas that Brewer touches, that, SD24 is. We have HD97. That's a big, a big get there. SD27 is looking good right now. But, a lot of those SD16, SD31, for Republican pathway to win the state Senate, one of those needs to drop in the Republican bucket.
And it does look like Spotsylvania County is coming in right now, so we're getting Tara Durant is pulling further ahead,
and that's
as that drops. So that is a pretty big.
And that's gonna
swing.
also affect Lee Peters' numbers significantly. That's a red stronghold in his area. One we haven't seen report in really much of yet.
Yeah, actually, as she does that, we're seeing Lee Peters gain some ground. So right now he's at about 5,300 votes. And Joshua Cole, the Democrat, is about 5,900 votes. So there are a couple percentage points difference, but really the vote total difference is not that high.
Yeah.
So, with only a couple hundred votes separating them, that's one of those that as Spotsylvania comes in, that could really swing in Lee Peters' direction.
Yeah, absolutely. And, there's only, I think, 2 precincts left to go in on Lee Peters' district. We were seeing 7 precincts that were left looking at, about 10,000 early votes. There's still a lot of votes left to count here.
Absolutely. So as we wait here, Jeff, it looks like, is coming on now. So we should be able to get a little bit of an insight into what the Senate caucus is seeing and how things are going on that front.
That's going to be a needed insight right now is, their pathway's narrowing a little bit here with what I'm seeing out of Dunavant's district.
Absolutely. Well, let's see. Is Jeff on with us yet? All right. Jeff is coming on with us. Hi, Jeff. How you doing tonight? Same here.
Same here. So what are we seeing right now? We're seeing it start to narrow. We see the results start coming in SD 31 and 16. Not much left to report there, except some ABEV numbers and a handful of outstanding precincts. As we see more votes coming in, what's the pathway here?
Well, I can't give you any assurances at the moment that there is one, because we're looking at 3 different races that we knew were going to be what the determining factor was. And
difficult, yeah.
We're obviously not leading in any of the 3. Right now we are, as we have been for several weeks, I guess you'd have to say, at 19 and holding. So, but we are very confident of the 19, but that doesn't do much, does it?
No, it doesn't. But, are there areas of strength that you're seeing missing from SD 16 or SD 31?
No, just a lot that's still unknown. One area that was kind of a surprise was in Loudon. We barely trailed in the Loudon race in Juan Pablo's in the actual early votes, because we did get some counts from the locale.
Well, that is encouraging, and that
was very, very encouraging.
That is more proof that these ABEV numbers were stronger than expected. Do you see any proof here that you think cannibalize some of the election day vote, or do you think mostly these were new voters?
No, because the election day margins are by and large pretty much what we were hoping for. We're not coming up too short as far as projections in some of them. So it's not that bad. There's a few disappointments, but not a ton.
We knew these races were going to be close. SD 16 especially is a tough district. This was, if it wasn't Siobhan Dunavant, most people would have taken it off the board.
Absolutely. No, that's true.
Oh, we do have a quick update. Lee Peters just pulled ahead in House District 65.
It looks like some of his positions of strength are starting to come in. Speaking of that, White Oak, that was, a precinct we saw a heavy turnout out of going in. So, we knew that was going to be a position of strength. But back to Senate map, talking about a little more of the fun districts, SD 27, while we're on the topic of Lee Peters, what are you seeing there?
We see a win for Tara, comfortable when everything's counted.
Great. And Emily Brewer, we very encouraged by her results, and it looks like she might pull up someone like Dillander with her.
Yeah, that's looking pretty good. Actually, what's encouraging us the most is clearly she's overperforming, I'd say, in Suffolk, which is good news for us.
We've been hearing that this morning that Suffolk precincts are turning red. So I just saw Danny Diggs pulled ahead, at least on the VPAP math. Obviously, we still have a lot of Newport News out, Poquoson and James City County. How are you guys feeling about that race?
Well, first of all, so the James City County precinct that's out is quite petite. It's Robert Say. He has just a very small part of that in that district. But when I last looked, and obviously we've been on for the last couple of minutes, but when I last looked, none of Poquoson was in, and Pocoson's turnout levels today were
they were astronomical.
So we feel fairly confident that Sheriff Diggs will be coming to the Senate and Monty Mason won't.
Well, that's fantastic to hear. On that note, I think we'll wrap up. We'll let you get back to the war room there. It sounds like you guys are having a busy night. Thank you so much for coming on with us, Jeff.
I got half the countryside around here. Thank you all very much. My apologies for the delay.
No,
all
absolutely.
good. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for the insight.
Take care. Bye-bye.
All right, up next, before we cut to a quick break, we've got Aaron Evans, who is the president of WRS Consulting. He was the consultant for David Owen and some of these really crucial races.
And Bob Anderson, which, is a Commonwealth's attorney race most people haven't been paying it much attention to, but Buda Bibaraj has had her issues where, this is a race that, is going to be interesting to say the least. He also has done some work in out of state, and we can get some insight into maybe the Kentucky result.
Yeah, absolutely. That's going to be a big one. And, hopefully it'll give us some insight on some of the local candidates as well, which often get overlooked in some of these bigger discussions, but are just as critical for even what Victoria was talking about earlier, even the ability for us to have pro-life wins at the local level, which is something that we work on as an organization.
Especially school board candidates. They have such a
school board candidates, board of supervisors, all of those things really play an integral role into what we're able to accomplish in Virginia, whether or not we win the state senate this year. So I think with that, Aaron Evans is with us. Give us just a second here. All right, so Aaron Evans is with us now. He's coming live. Bruce, when did you first meet Aaron?
So Aaron and I have been working together for quite some time. He's been doing work with us this year. He did some of our techs and, worked together with us on the anti-casino front. He was behind some of those ads that are proving very effective, from the results we've seen.
All right. Sounds like he's ready to come live. So Aaron, welcome on. Thank you for joining us for Battleground 2023. What are you seeing?
Yeah, absolutely. No, great to be on, Jesse. Thank you guys, and appreciate the Family Foundation and the great work you guys have done this cycle. So good to be on tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks for joining us.
I think, we're watching. Oh, yeah. No, totally. Sorry. Little lag here.
No, you're fine. Jump right into it, please.
So a lot of background noise in the war room here.
No, absolutely. It should be a busy place.
Looking
That's
across the state, obviously, kind of watching a lot of these races with swimming.
Did we lose you?
Sounds like we've got a little bit of a delay on Aaron.
Let's see. Is that better now?
Yeah, I
think that should be better.
Yep.
Yeah.
There we go. All right. Excellent. Sorry about that.
Oh, you're good. So, we were talking to David earlier, and, obviously he's one of your marquee clients, so we'll start there. And a district we invested heavily in, knocking doors, phone calls, texts, the whatever we could do to, defeat Susanna Gibson, get a conservative candidate out of a key district. We're still waiting on Goochland results here, and what are you seeing? What's your opinion about what's come in? What's your opinion about what we're waiting? What's the mood in the war room?
Yeah, no, I think we're still cautiously optimistic. Obviously it's a very tight election, and it really is going to come down to Goochland. The early vote numbers also are not, fully, they're not showing up at all yet, and so I think, just kind of rough math, looking at what we anticipate the ballpark to be with early voting results. I think, we're going to need Goochland to come in fairly strong. We do anticipate that to be a very strong possibility. So, we're still very optimistic, and far from cocky. I don't think anyone should be cocky in Virginia tonight, but we are very cautiously optimistic here, and I think it's all going to depend on Goochland.
Well, you guys had some local races as well, too, that you were working on. So what are some of the big things you're seeing at the local level?
Yeah, no, every race is very competitive right now. I think on the local level, you're seeing a lot of campaigns that really didn't spend a lot on the Democrat side, but it's just that the down ballot, marking the D sample ballot, I think has definitely proven very competitive and effective for them this cycle. And so, I mean, there's a lot of really tight races right now, and I think we were talking about this yesterday, kind of going into it. We really didn't have a race, especially in Henrico, Chesterfield, area, the Richmond, suburbs. That wasn't a 50-50 race coming into election day.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, we're watching a lot of races really close right now.
And you guys get to see a little bit of everything in terms of how turnout is effective. So is there one thing that you feel like really drove a lot of the conservative turnout this year? Whether it's messaging or a way that we're talking to voters, something that you feel like was really kind of worth its weight in gold?
Yeah, I think that specifically the early messaging and the focus on early voting is really any race that wins tonight in a 50-50 district is going to win or lose based on the early vote push. And honestly, when we're looking at these numbers as tight as they are on election day, if we had taken the same approach this cycle that we've taken in past cycles, where we just kind of dismiss early voting and put all of our eggs in election day, I think tonight would be looking extremely bleak in a lot of races. The fact that we've got several races that are still hyper competitive, that have a real shot of still pulling this off tonight, really is a result of that big early vote push. So I think, definitely some credit goes to Governor Youngkin on the vision to lead that effort and put the money and the focus there. And I think ultimately, as far as just getting the vote out, really just showing that contrast of how, Democrat policies really do, they try to portray conservatives as the radicals, but in reality, they really have the radical policies that really do hurt families. And I think being able to show that, I think that's, obviously there's a lot of people tired of some of the nonsense that's came out of Richmond in recent years. And so, that's been very effective.
Well, thank you so much for being with us. Hopefully we can turn that around after tonight. We wish you the best of luck with the results as things come in. And right now, for our viewers, we are going to take a quick 5-minute break. When we come back, we're going to be joined by Gary Marks, who's one of the top advisors to Attorney General Jason Miyares.
Yeah, that's going to be a good one. And thank you, Aaron, again for all you do and for joining us and giving us some insight into these races.
All right, stick
Absolutely.
with us.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Aaron. Bye.
The Church Ambassador Network is working every day to connect Virginia's pastors and faith leaders together with their legislators and policymakers. The message is simple. We want to strengthen our brothers and sisters in Christ as they seek the Lord's direction when they make decisions for the Commonwealth. We start by equipping pastors to present a biblical worldview as it pertains to education. By the time a child is 13, research suggests that their worldview has been established. By that age, they have spent 9,500 hours in the school system and less than 2,000 hours in church. So I think pastors should be very concerned about what's happening during those hours. On November the 30th, we're holding a pastor summit right here in Richmond. We want to encourage and equip pastors to understand the responsibility that the church has to help shape schools for the winning of the next generation. Join us with Dr. Tony Evans, Lieutenant Governor Winsome Sears, and Don DeCostin, the president of Liberty University, for some really important information that will help you to do just that. If you're a pastor and are interested in joining us, please go to familyfoundation.org/Pastor Summit and register today. We look forward to seeing you there, and God bless you.
Hi, I'm Michael Sylvester, Litigation Counsel at the Founding Freedoms Law Center. Over the years, Virginians have experienced increased threats to their fundamental liberties, especially the free exercise of religion, the freedom of speech, and the right of parents to raise their children consistent with their values. Founding Freedoms Law Center exists to defend Virginians against these threats. For more information or to inquire about our services, visit foundingfreedomslaw.org. We represent clients at no charge to them, but to do this, we need your support. To contribute to our work or to access our many legal resources, visit foundingfreedomslaw.org.
The Virginia General Assembly convenes in 2 short months, and with it, the beginning of our 2024 Enrich PAGE program. PAGEs are an essential part of our policy team, helping us advocate for family values. If your teen is in 8th through 12th grade and interested in government, this would be perfect for them. They will have the opportunity to shadow our team, track bills of interest, help us advocate for family values, and get a front row seat in how state government works. If you want to learn more, just visit familyfoundation.org/student programs.
The Family Foundation has a rich history of advocating for pro-family and pro-life values in the General Assembly. But in 2024, things are going to look and feel a lot different with so many new legislators, having lost over 500 years of combined institutional knowledge. But this presents us with a great opportunity to build new relationships with so many new legislators. But in order to do that, we also need to be able to engage the people and the citizens of the Commonwealth of Virginia. And we do that in various ways. We send out email alerts that inform you about important pieces of legislation that impact families and the sanctity of life. We issue text alerts that tell you about critical debates that will be happening in the legislature. And we also produce a report card every 2 years that tells you how every member of the General Assembly voted on critical pieces of legislation. We encourage you to go to our website at thefamilyfoundation.org for more information.
Thank you for joining our live stream. I'm Bruce Schlesman, the Executive Director of Family Foundation Action. Right now, less than half of people who attend church regularly are voting regularly. If those people were voting, this would be a fundamentally different country. Family Foundation Action, what we're doing is we're on the ground, knocking doors, making calls, sending texts every day. This year alone, we've knocked over 40,000 doors, made tens of thousands of calls, made hundreds of thousands of texts, all direct voter contact, reaching voters and flushing them out to vote. We need your monthly gifts to continue. Right now, we need partners to financially support what we're doing so that we can continue to turn out voters and turn this state into a more conservative state than it is right now. Even if it's only $10, $50, whatever you can do a month, that support goes a long way. Please pray and consider what you can do to help us.
Hey everybody, thanks for coming back with us. As we get back, we've got some good news to share. Bruce, do you want to share it?
Yeah, absolutely. So this was a race we didn't get a chance to talk about with Aaron because we ran out of time, but Bob Anderson has defeated Buddha Biberaj in Loudoun County. Huge upset in the Commonwealth's attorney race. Despite Buddha and her issues, it was Loudoun County, and that's countywide. That's a countywide office, but that is an important moral victory out of a local race there.
Yes, absolutely. And this is something for the folks on here who have watched the podcast that Victoria and Candy do, the Speak Up Virginia podcast, which you can check out on YouTube if you go to Family Foundation on our YouTube page.
Nice plug.
Shameless
there.
plug.
Yeah.
But this is one of the ones that we've covered before because Buddha was one of the folks that was involved with the Loudoun Love Warriors that was doxing parents.
Yeah, that was her group.
Yeah, that was her group of activists. So this is a huge moral victory for conservatives. And, even as we're looking at results in the State House and State Senate, as we were talking about earlier, even though some of these look close or may look a little bit not in our favor, it's great to see some of those things at the Commonwealth's attorney level especially.
Yeah, absolutely. And, we have another big win here, too. Not to pivot too soon, but, the anti-casino is now at 69.84% in no against the casino and only 30.16 for yes. And what I'm seeing is most of North Richmond and the West Side reporting in. These were areas we expected to be more anti-casino. South Side has not reported in. This is going to be strong. So, this should narrow a bit, but with such a commanding win right now, it looks like the casino's going down in flames.
Well, that's really good to hear. And you know, as we were talking about with Will earlier, that's something that the pro casino side, the Richmond Grand, they've sunk $11 million into that. Yeah. They had canvassers out all over Richmond. They've had ads everywhere, but you know, it was really very astroturfed. It was one of the things that we were seeing.
Very much so.
It's funny. There's a Democrat consultant who's involved in the area, and so her name is Mel, and they put Mel on some of their casino ads as one of the Richmond local citizens. So, you know,
they couldn't even find real citizens.
Start to finish, it was a very astroturfed thing. So, you know, I don't want to jinx this, but right now it's looking really positive for the no casino side, and you know, that's something we're really excited to see. It's something we were able to be involved in not once but twice, and so if we're able to defeat this, you know, that's a big win.
Huge win. You know, very David and Goliath story. You know, one of the big upsets we're hoping to see tonight, and that's looking very positive. You know, right now I'm seeing the House is very narrow and too tough to call. I see, you know, it's narrowed with Greenhall again. Kim Taylor is coming back now. It's now at 48 to 51. That looked a bit farther out from before. You know, the Lee Peters Joshua Cole race is as close as advertised. You know, nothing's moved in HD 57 since we broke. You know, Stirrup is narrowed.
Looks like David Owen and Susanna Gibson is very narrow right now, less than 100 votes separating them. So this one might be a situation where we go to recount. We've got 15 of 19 precincts reporting in. So again, we're still waiting on some of those precincts that might be strongholds for David Owen.
Yeah.
But it's a very tight race across the board.
Baxter looks safe in HD 89. You know, this was a more lean R district, so, you know, that's not extraordinarily surprising to see. Lovejoy looks safe. All the early votes there are counted. Most of the we still have early votes to count in most of these districts. That's one we don't. Just 2 precincts from Election Day. You know, on the Senate side, you know, we're still looking good in SD 27, although it is narrowing as they count those votes. They have a lot of early votes to go, so we'll see.
We've got about 49 to 46% there.
Yeah.
And, you know, the interesting thing, too, there were some questions because there's an independent running on that ballot. There's also potentially a write-in candidate. And it looks like there's actually quite a few for the independent.
There
more
are,
than I expected.
4.45, I think, you know, so it's interesting to see who she draws in. We'd figured she'd draw more from the Democrat, but honestly, it kind of looks like they're splitting votes here right now.
Interesting to see, but Emily Brewer definitely has a commanding lead now over Clint Jenkins.
Yes.
She's up about 3,000 votes, a little over 3,000 votes, so that looks pretty safe, I think. That's almost good enough to call, though.
Yeah, not quite.
Not
we're not
quite,
gonna
but
jinx her.
we're pretty close there. So
yeah, and same news from Danny Diggs' district. This is super close. We're probably not going to know who won that district tonight. There's a very good chance we won't know out of SD 31 as well. But you know, it's not looking good for Juan Pablo there. But you know, once again, there's a lot of early votes out. There's 2 precincts left, so mostly the early votes to go. And most of these districts we're seeing, you know, like Jeff said, you know, they're figuring to do a lot better in the ABEV vote than generally. It's not going to be the Democrat bloodbath that it was before. In a lot of these districts, you're going to see it, you know, pretty much split down the line. In some places, Republicans had an edge in ABEV. So we'll see. I mean, you have the swing column voters, which are tougher to account for, and we do have to
very much. Yeah,
we do have to see which way they go.
Well, and one of the other shameless plugs that I want to make tonight is for our viewers who are kind of just getting involved and paying attention to these things. This may be the first election analysis you've watched from Virginia. So, you know, when we have these state year elections, a lot of folks don't cover this on national media, but for all of these close races that might be in recount or we might be waiting a couple days for results, right now Bruce and I are at a website called vpap.org. It's a lovely publicly funded election kind of hotspot for everybody.
I truly don't know how states function without it.
We are the only state in the nation that benefits from vpap.org. So if you're looking to watch some of these races as we go along over the next couple days, please take a look at this website and you can follow all the up-to-date results. It sounds like we have Delegate Nick Freitas, who's going to be on the phone with us pretty soon.
So Delegate Freitas, we're hoping to hear some insight from him on the House results, especially here, in the overall trends that we're seeing. Delegate Freitas, you with us yet?
Oh, give him just a minute.
Yeah, just a minute. Yeah, while we're waiting, do you want to, are there any other districts that kind of came in here?
Yeah, so it looks like we're getting some results. It looks like Monty Mason just pulled ahead slightly with a couple precincts reporting in Senate District 24. So Delegate Freitas, can you hear us? Oh, it looks like he's trying out a different link. So
bear with us.
Just bear with us in the background. Everybody's at these victory parties in their war rooms. So
yeah.
They're joining us really from the ground. You're getting on the ground reporting from Family Foundation Action here. So
yeah,
it's really quite a treat to have these folks with us and all the insights that they're able to share. So one of the things that I do want to talk about is some of the folks who are going to be returning that we know are returning. So right now, we're pretty confident about Delegate Brewer's position in Senate District 17.
Yeah, absolutely.
She's really been a strong champion for those of you who have been involved with some of our
rating.
Legislative efforts. Yeah, she's got a 100% rating on our scorecard. We release our scorecard based on how legislators vote every 2 years. Delegate Brewer has been in the House for the past 2 years and before that as well, but she was 100% with us.
Definitely. She was a bright spot as a legislator. Electorally, she's a bright spot right now, which is one of the reasons we're going back to her so much.
Your heads up. They'll introduce you on the stream, and then
with us.
we'll be going in just a few moments.
One of our key delegates in the House, and a big media personality, a social media personality.
You may have seen him from his YouTube shorts and TikToks.
Yeah, absolutely. He's got a huge following. Delegate Freitas, you with us?
I'm with you. How y'all doing?
We're doing all right. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good.
That's great. So, looking at kind of these House results as they come in, I mean, there's so much unknown right now, but, what's some of the results you're looking at? What's encouraging? What's discouraging right now?
Well, obviously, there's some races in the Senate that we're very encouraged about. Emily Brewer, Tara Durant, Danny Diggs. Those all look like we're working very solid right there. And then we've got a couple races, too, that we're still looking at. Segura and Bill Wolf are still races that haven't been decided yet. It's very, very close. So that's what's going to decide what the Senate is. And then on the House side, I think one of the biggest races that we're looking at right now is Owen and Gibson.
Absolutely.
I think Owen's going to pull it off. As I look at the outstanding precincts, they're mainly in Goochland, which should break pretty heavy for Owen. So I think that's going to be positive. But we need to be paying attention to Karen Greenhall, Kimberly Taylor. Those are some of the races that we need to be watching closely that we know are going to be close, right? Ian Lovejoy, John Stirrup, Lee Peters. Those are all races that we're watching to determine, who's going to control the House.
So Delegate Freitas, we have, Delegate Tara Durant and Delegate Brewer have both been colleagues of yours. So what can you tell us about what we should expect from them as hopefully senators in the near future?
Well, again, it's been a pleasure to work with both of them in the House of Delegates. I've worked with Emily now for, I think 6 years. Emily she's very intelligent. She's very dedicated. I think she's going to work incredibly hard in the Senate. She's definitely going to do a lot of credit over there. Tara Durant came in as a freshman in the House of Delegates 2 years ago and really just made her mark almost instantly. To give you an idea, one of the things that we do for our freshman candidates or for our freshman members when we bring them on is we run them through training on how to properly present a bill and how to stand before a subcommittee. And we put them through the ringer. And I usually play the role of the guy putting them through the ringer. And Tara just impressed on day one with.
That's not surprising that you're playing that role.
That's the least surprising thing I've heard tonight.
Yeah, well, Tara Durant is just always impressed with her poise and again her ability to advocate. So I think both of them are going to do an excellent job in the Senate. The only thing that's frustrating for me as a loyal member of the People's House, and the Virginia House of Delegates, is that we're so frustrated of having to send all of our talent over to the Senate in order to get those guys to finally get their stuff together. So
yeah, Obenshain's taking the good ones. Well,
that's what we hear.
We still got you there. We still got you in the House.
Well,
we are happy to be the I always call those senators the aristocrats over there. But again, every once in a while we've got to send a House member over there. We can't be greedy. We've got to send a good House member over there to teach them how legislation is properly.
Yeah, they need a few more 100% Family Foundation scores in their corner.
Absolutely.
Well, Delegate, regardless of how the election results come out tonight in some of these critical seats, what we are going to see with the next session is one of the newest classes of both members of the House and members of the state Senate. I think about 400 years of institutional knowledge gone on both sides.
It's a lot of retirements.
So you're going to have a lot of people to keep up to speed.
Well, to give everyone listening an idea, about probably roughly 40% of the House of Delegates will be freshmen.
Wow.
And none of us can really remember the last time something like that has happened. And so there will be a lot of new people within the organization. And look, that's not necessarily a bad thing, right? That's not necessarily a bad thing. This is not supposed to be a career. It's supposed to be a term of service. But what it does mean is, for those of us that have been around for a little while and understand the processes and the procedures, one of the things that we kind of pride ourselves on in Virginia is that we are the oldest continuously legislative body within the Western Hemisphere. We've been in operation for over 400 years, and those processes matter. Just like we say we're a nation of laws, not men, that also applies to the legislature when it comes to actually following the processes and conducting regular order, because we don't want to operate like Washington, D.C. does. And so it will be incumbent on those of us who have been there for a few years to be able to get the freshmen up to speed on those processes. But I'm also encouraged to see the ideas and perspectives that they bring to the table.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Delegate. It was really a pleasure to have you on with us, and we're excited to see you when the General Assembly kicks off in a few short months here.
Well, I will say this again, for anybody listening, the Family Foundation does an excellent job, not just their advocacy, not just in assisting legislators, but they really are the people that show up every single subcommittee, full committee, and really put in the work. And I can't thank you enough for what you do, and I can't thank you enough for the support you provide, both for the principles that you stand for and for the legislators that are trying to fight for those principles. So thank you very much for what you do.
Thank you, Delegate.
For joining us, Delegate.
Well, up next, we've got Gary Marks, who should be just about to connect with us.
So Gary is the senior advisor to Jason Miyares' PAC, the Attorney General. He has been one of the Attorney General's most senior campaign consultants and advisors.
Go.
Gary, are you there?
Oh,
not yet.
Sorry.
All right, sorry. Well, as I was saying, Gary's been one of those people that, he started originally at the Family Foundation. He's from Virginia, residing in Georgia right now. He's one of the premier consultants in that state and one of the best people the Attorney General has. He's been one of our biggest supporters too. And, so I'm happy to have him on in a few seconds here, to discuss what we're seeing, discuss what he's seeing. Gary, you live yet? All right. Well, sorry for the bumpy ride in, but glad you're joining us. So, Gary, looking overall at what you're seeing, what are some of the trends you're seeing? What are you seeing right now? How's the mood in the Attorney General's war room?
Yeah, obviously, we are proud that we have been all in from the very beginning. There's no other way to go in any of these important fights than to be 100% all in. And Attorney General Miyares was that. He did 30 fundraisers for candidates. He did, netting up more than $1 million for candidates, gave $60,000 directly to candidates. Did more than 55 rallies and events with candidates, text messages that he paid for, direct mail from the PAC into key districts. He said from the very beginning, I can only go into this one way, and that's 100% all in. And, that's kind of the attitude he had when he took on a two-term incumbent like Mark Herring the last time. he knew of only one way to go about it, and that was the way he fought and went into that battle. So, that's what we do. We go all the way through the tape and see where we finish at the end of it. But there's those last 10 yards you've got to run through the tape and then lean. Way back
absolutely.
When I was in Northern Virginia as a track runner in high school, that's what I learned. And there's occasionally sometimes where you lean so far, you fall over the finish line because you've given it every last ounce that you possibly have in your body. And I think that's what we got to do right now.
Well, thank you so much for coming on and sharing what you guys are seeing. One of the things that you and the Attorney General have been very involved in is Commonwealth's attorney races. So I just want to hear your thoughts on how that's going across the Commonwealth. And also, it looks like Bob Anderson is in the lead over Buda Biberaj in Loudoun County.
That's exactly right. That's the big one that's on a lot of people's minds and have been following that. That would be a historic moment for common sense Virginians to come together and oust an incumbent Commonwealth's attorney. That doesn't happen every day. That would be a big monumental kind of thing to note. And just the fact that it's this close, this late in the evening is really something. They've seen, this type of soft on crime, victim last mentality that, these very progressive, out of step Commonwealth's attorneys have been pushing forward in Loudoun, in Fairfax, and other places across the Commonwealth. And, hopefully voters are coming to their senses and realize that's not going to work. Those policies haven't worked. They were tried in the 70s so often and didn't work then. We woke up for a number of decades and realized how to create a Virginia Renaissance like we saw under Governor George Allen in that period. And it's time to see that kind of Renaissance again when it comes to dealing with crime in a common sense way that voters get.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I mean, that's very well put. I was not expecting this race with Bob to have this kind of lead of more than 5,000 votes to this point. There's a lot of early votes. Like you said, the votes are still being counted. That race isn't quite over yet. But, Bob's commanding lead to start here, this is pretty unexpected and a massive moral victory for you guys. I mean, Buda has been a thorn in the Attorney General's side.
Yeah. She has been, active and aggressive and recalcitrant in rethinking any of the policies that clearly haven't been working and have divided even her own side. So I think we're seeing evidence of that tonight. Let's hope that there's more opportunities across the country in coming years to begin to roll back that tide of Soros-funded progressive prosecutors. Attorney General Miyares has been the chairman of Protecting America's Action Fund, which has been focused just on those key races with prosecutors, Commonwealth's attorneys, and that's something that's personal to him. As you know, he was an assistant prosecutor in Virginia Beach when he started his political career many years ago.
Absolutely.
So it's personal to him, and he understands it.
I mean, he's the only guy too that invested any kind of time and resources into these Commonwealth attorney races.
Are there any others that you guys are looking at that you're really enthusiastic about tonight?
Well, he again, let me say, he was not personally weighing in those races. He didn't, put money into those directly. So that's the biggest one that I know that tomorrow morning it's very possible the Washington Post will be thinking about how do we not cover this below the fold. In the backup section, E and F, that's going to be one where also truthfully it could take a while to count. We all know that there's these ballots that could postmark today and might not even be counted all the way until next Monday. So that's a reality that folks have to just realize. It could take a little while.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
A lot of these races are going to take a while to count. On that note, what do you feel like we need to see? What races are you looking at that you feel we need to see to take the House, or the Senate is starting to look like we're not going to get there, but what do we need to see to make either of those chambers happen?
Yep. At the end of the day, I don't want to get into any specific one race, but I'll look back and say this. We would not even have this opportunity if the Democrats had been allowed to redistrict the way that they had planned. We would not even be in the ballpark of looking at a 50 votes in the House or 51 majority, whatever, might be possible, we wouldn't be looking at if that had been allowed to happen. And this is the first time that all these folks are running under new redistricting lines. And, there's a reason why you saw, Senate candidates, like Siobhan Donovan. That was a lost seat in many ways the day that redistricting happened. And that was just unfortunate for her. But when there's a nonpartisan commission that draws the lines, it is far better than what would have happened when we saw that radical majority the Democratic House back in 2019. Can you imagine what the lines might have looked like? So there's always a way to get perspective on nights like this when you do remember where things could be, even if things aren't quite where you want them yet.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So I'll just leave you with that.
Very good point. And, thanks, Gary, so much for joining us. Thank you for all you do, and thank you for the support.
All right. Appreciate it, guys. Keep up the great work at Family Foundation. God bless.
Have a great night. All right. Well, as we wrap up tonight, we're going to bring back Victoria Cobb, our president, to kind of hear her closing thoughts from this evening as we wrap up with all of you. We hope you're having a great night so far. And Victoria, thanks for jumping back on with us.
It's great to be back. I wish I were back with maybe a little bit more encouraging news. So we're here and we're still waiting for things to roll in. But not the night we had hoped for, I would say. That's a fair statement.
No, it's not. And, but House is still up for grabs here. A lot of these races we're still looking. It looks like, we could see SD 24 drop for us with Danny Diggs, but of course I don't think we're going to know tonight.
And we always knew that election night we may not know everything, and that was, we always said this is going to come down to, a tight race in certain places, and it looks like it has. I think when we look at this election and we just kind of sort of sit back and go, okay, what happened, which we won't be able to do much of tonight. But I do think, there's a question of, a lot of messages going into voters. What did they believe, right? So there's, especially on the abortion issue, you had Republicans saying, look, the Democrats want abortion on demand up until the moment of birth. And the Republicans, were being framed as people who, as you put, want to put women in prison. And so to some degree, it's what did the voters believe? And I think it was very, very hard for Republican messages to cut through on other issues. It's an amazing situation where we have such a poor opinion of the president in Virginia. If you look at those numbers, you overall concern about the economy. Families are spending more every day on just simple things like putting dinner on the table, but yet abortion so much money was thrown at this one issue that it may have actually made it hard for Republicans to campaign on the things that actually should matter most to voters, I would say, because the survival, crime on the streets, protecting your family and food are sort of basic survival. Then comes the abortion issue, of course, because pro-life voters should care a lot about that. But it's just amazing to me that they couldn't cut through with these other messages. I think Governor Youngkin tried to go on a parents' rights tour, really spent some time on that, but it was hard for that message to kind of break through the clutter. And so I think we're going to just kind of have to look back and analyze what did voters really think. I think the exit polls will be very interesting. Why did you vote for who you voted for?
Yeah, and if we see, that a lot of the swing voters in Virginia are turning out on abortion, I know that's been, something that liberals like to hit us over the head with every single election, that they win on those issues.
Yeah, we have to find that out, and that I think that can't be presumed, but certainly it's a concern that we have, and obviously if we haven't updated on Ohio's ballot issue on abortion also went down, meaning our folks, the pro-life folks, did not win that. So again, deeply concerning. learning.
Well, one of the things that you talk about a lot is changing the culture.
Yeah.
And so, that may be something that we really have to invest in as a movement over the next few years. So what do you want to see in terms of where the pro-life movement goes, where Christian conservatives go in terms of how we talk about this going forward?
We have to help people value human life, and we have to help them understand how important it is that we protect the most vulnerable. Young people get it in some ways without realizing that they get it. You sit there and they're the folks that want to advocate for the most vulnerable in our society, minority rights and all these things, but they haven't connected the dots that the actual most vulnerable person in our society is the unborn, that they are the ones that can't even determine any of their own destiny. And so we've got to kind of connect these messages. And I just think there's going to have to be, we knew Roe has been in place for decades, and the idea that we're going to instantly remove Roe and then everybody's going to just come to our side isn't realistic. This is a long-term battle, and it is hearts and minds, and hearts and minds have to move. The law moving ahead of hearts and minds doesn't happen very often.
And it just got way more important.
Yeah.
To be fair, on exit polling on all of this, there's so much of we don't know why the results are coming.
Yeah.
We just see the numbers.
Right.
And so, so much of this needs to be done, this kind of post-mortem afterwards. And there's so much we don't know. There's so much outstanding, especially on the House side. But to pivot to what we do know, to talk about the casino referendum.
Yeah, that's the good news of the night.
That is really great.
What we know.
We're standing, the what we know. I think there's going to be a few races.
Yeah, there'll be some other good news.
Yeah, we just don't see those numbers coming in yet. But the anti-casino front, it looks like we have no casino here in Richmond. All election day votes are in, heavily up, 61.62%. To 38.38. Now, what's not in is about.
Well, hang on. VPAP has an update.
Oh,
so VPAP, 72 of 72 precincts reporting in. No is at 61.6%. Yes is at 38.38%. Now, it looks like we still have about 13,000 early votes left to count. But right now, I'm not sure that's going to account for the difference.
That's not going to be a surmountable.
As it's breaking down, I don't expect the ABEV numbers to be suddenly strong pro-casino. It's probably going to break down more or less the way these election day votes are breaking down. The difference between this issue and other issues is it's not really partisan.
No, it isn't.
It broke apart. This is Heart of Darkness, Richmond City,
Darkness. Yeah. We do love some of you out there in the city of Richmond. I don't want to. It's just a deeply liberal area, so we don't win many elections in the heart of Richmond City. But I'll say this: the last time we won in 2021, it was a David and Goliath. Then there was a couple $100,000 spent on our side on a campaign that we led with a left-wing partner, and then there was literally $3 million ish, maybe 2.5 spent by the other side. So they came in this time and said, we're really going to get them. And it looks like they've spent 11 million, maybe more. Final numbers actually come in after the final election day. But, think about this, $11 million. I think our side looks like it's maybe 400,000, maybe 500,000. So it was David and Goliath last time. I don't even know what you call this. This is and you know what they spent that money on? Losing about 10% more of the city of Richmond's votes.
It honestly felt like the more they learned about the casino, the more they didn't like it. It was almost like Peter in the Briar Patch.
I just want to remind people, when we won 2 years ago, it was 50 point something to 49 point something. It was within a percentage vote. We barely squeaked it out. And this time it looks like, it's not that just that Richmond voters registered their objection. It looks like they shouted their objection to this casino. So we're hoping what this sends a message is we're done. Don't come back. Don't bother to go into Petersburg. Just be out of here and, send them on their way.
Well, I think that's a pretty good note to wrap up on, since we're probably not going to see a lot of results in a lot of the other districts that we're watching. Those are definitely going to keep trickling in, so folks definitely keep an eye out. But as we finish out the night here with you live, Victoria, what are some of your closing thoughts?
Well, I just want to say I'm so proud of this team over here that did such a phenomenal job leading our efforts on doors, on direct text messaging to voters, trying to turn out those folks that don't come out for every election. I think we can be really proud of the work that we put in. I don't want people to be discouraged, no matter whatever we end up with here tonight. I want us to realize that these are long-term battles. They are not sprints. This is a marathon. We stay at it all the time. Virginia has an election every year. We're going to go into that General Assembly. We're going to fight for every policy that protects parents and that is pro-life and that, that defends school choice. I mean, all these things. We're going to continue to advance, and we're going to find those ways to advance. We have amazing litigation happening in court that's going to do some things. We've got amazing things happening through the governor's office. Yes, we may not have both chambers, but a lot can still be done, and we've learned that through the years.
And Bruce, where are you at right now? What are your closing thoughts?
Closing thoughts are so much we don't know. Just keep watching. Out of the Senate, Danny Diggs, Poquoson City hasn't come in. That's a huge stronghold for him. A lot of these ABEV numbers for most of these districts haven't come in or fully. There's very few that have counted all the way. So much still outstanding on Karen Greenhall's district, a very critical district.
And a champion for saving girls sports. So I really want to see her come back.
Absolutely. She's been a phenomenal delegate. We need to see her come back. Out of David Owen, it's
neck and neck, right?
Exact same it was. David slightly leading. The no returns have come in from, what's outstanding from the ABEV or Goochland, and then one precinct in Henrico. So that
I'm encouraged that Goochland is what's outstanding. Let's say that, because that tends to be more conservative. So I think that actually is, when you kind of break down by precinct, that's good news, I think.
Cautiously optimistic. He's not going to win by as much as we hoped. But
sure.
He looks like I'd say he's still the favorite right now because Goochland is outstanding.
Well, there's a lot left on the table, so definitely keep watching, and we'll give you updates as we can as this process continues, as votes are counted over the next few days and tonight. But thank you so much to everybody who joined us, and we want to thank especially the speakers who came on with us tonight to share their insights. For those of you who are watching who may not be involved with us yet, please check us out at familyfoundation.org. You can learn more about what Bruce and I do at Family Foundation Action. You can learn about our other great programs. You saw that ad. Why don't we just play that group of videos that we put together with the rest of our team as we close for those of you who are watching. But thank you all so much for coming on with us. And, as we close out tonight, please pray for our Commonwealth, for everyone who will be elected over the next few days and for the next couple years in Virginia. Good night.
The Church Ambassador Network is working every day to connect Virginia's pastors and faith leaders together with their legislators and policymakers. The message is simple. We want to strengthen our brothers and sisters in Christ as they seek the Lord's direction when they make decisions for the Commonwealth. We start by equipping pastors to present a biblical worldview as it pertains to education. By the time a child is 13, research suggests that their worldview has been established. By that age, they have spent 9,500 hours in the school system and less than 2,000 hours in church. So I think pastors should be very concerned about what's happening during those hours. On November the 30th, we're holding a pastor summit right here in Richmond. We want to encourage and equip pastors to understand the responsibility that the church has to help shape schools for the winning of the next generation. Join us with Dr. Tony Evans, Lieutenant Governor Winsome Sears, and Don DeCostin, the president of Liberty University, for some really important information that will help you to do just that. If you're a pastor and are interested in joining us, please go to familyfoundation.org/Pastor Summit and register today. We look forward to seeing you there, and God bless you.
Hi, I'm Michael Sylvester, Litigation Counsel at the Founding Freedoms Law Center. Over the years, Virginians have experienced increased threats to their fundamental liberties, especially the free exercise of religion, the freedom of speech, and the right of parents to raise their children consistent with their values. Founding Freedoms Law Center exists to defend Virginians against these threats. For more information or to inquire about our services, visit foundingfreedomslaw.org. We represent clients at no charge to them, but to do this, we need your support. To contribute to our work or to access our many legal resources, visit foundingfreedomslaw.org.
The Virginia General Assembly convenes in 2 short months, and with it, the beginning of our 2024 Enrich Page program. Pages are an essential part of our policy team, helping us advocate for family values. If your teen is in 8th through 12th grade and interested in government, this will be perfect for them. They will have the opportunity to shadow our team, track bills of interest, help us advocate for family values, and get a front row seat in how state government works. If you want to learn more, just visit familyfoundation.org/student programs.
The Family Foundation has a rich history of advocating for pro-family and pro-life values in the General Assembly. But in 2024, things are going to look and feel a lot different with so many new legislators, having lost over 500 years of combined institutional knowledge. But this presents us with a great opportunity to build new relationships with so many new legislators. But in order to do that, we also need to be able to engage the people and the citizens of the Commonwealth of Virginia. And we do that in various ways. We send out email alerts that inform you about important pieces of legislation that impact families and the sanctity of life. We issue text alerts that tell you about critical debates that will be happening in the legislature. And we also produce a report card every 2 years that tells you how every member of the General Assembly voted on critical pieces of legislation. We encourage you to go to our website at thefamilyfoundation.org for more information.
Thank you for joining our live stream. I'm Bruce Schlesman, the Executive Director of Family Foundation Action. Right now, less than half of people who attend church regularly are voting regularly. If those people were voting, this would be a fundamentally different country. Family Foundation Action, what we're doing is we're on the ground, knocking doors, making calls, sending texts every day. This year alone, we've knocked over 40,000 doors, made tens of thousands of calls, made hundreds of thousands of texts, all direct voter contact, reaching voters and flushing them out to vote. We need your monthly gifts to continue. Right now, we need partners to financially support what we're doing so that we can continue to turn out voters and turn this state into a more conservative state than it is right now. Even if it's only $10, $50, whatever you can do a month, that support goes a long way. Please pray and consider what you can do to help us.